If you can fulfill a law externally in your own strength, it's just going to lead to pride. It's just going to lead to pride. And there's a lot of other stuff it leads to in our culture today. Like there's this mindset today of wanting to win arguments and win debates and like be right. And it's not just so exhilarating for you to be right. It's so exhilarating that you're right and the other guy's wrong. External law leads to all these things, man. It leads to all these things. But the whole point is that it must be internal. It must be internal, right? The internals affect the externals. Right? Like that's what we're going for. We're not going for, hey, how do I do the Christian thing right now? It's like, no, you already have to be the Christian so that in any situation you start doing the Christian thing because that's what you do. Let's look at 5. Let's get back into Matthew 5. We'll do verses 19 and 20. And it says this. It was a great Bible study last night. David and Goliath.
Yeah, that was a banger.
Otis was in the mix. A lot of young people. You were going hard. Christina was there. Christina with a K. The dog. I mean, it was wild last night. Okay, here's what he says in 5:19 through 20. He's just really trying to draw this distinction between, kind of having this separation from these laws that you follow compared to who you actually are, right? He says, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Right? The beef with the Pharisees was that they were teaching and not doing. There's no power in that, right? For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter the kingdom of heaven. That's a hardcore statement. But that's what he's saying is like, these Pharisees, they taught and they didn't do it. Right? In our kingdom, you have to live this, right? You have to do and teach. In other words, you have to be. You have to actually be this. Be this and live this. So here's 2 examples of what he's talking about. He's talking about the example of the Pharisees that were wankers. It's Matthew 23, 1 through 12. We're going to do 2 of these. And then the next one's going to be in Luke 18, verses 9 through 14. But Matthew 23 goes like this. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not you after their works, for they say and do not. He's saying they tell you the right stuff, but they don't live accordingly. They don't live accordingly. I don't know if you guys ever had parents. This might be a little old-fashioned, but did your parents ever say, do as I say, not as I do?
Sometimes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
that was like one thing I promised myself I'd never hit my kids and I'd never say that to them. Yeah. There might have been a couple other things, but those were like the 2 main ones. Because I like the hitting the kids. I'm not knocking anybody that's spanking their kids and stuff. I just didn't trust myself that like if I had a bad day and that option was on the table to like smack them, I just never wanted to do that, dude. I remember what that felt like. Yeah. I was like, I don't like this. Like, why can't you just tell me instead of like hitting me? You know what I'm saying? So I didn't like the hitting thing, but I'm not knocking anybody who does. That's up to you. It's your kids, and you'll stand before God with those kids one day, and those kids are going to take care of you when you're old, so just be mindful of that. But then I also said, like, I'm not going to say, do as I say, not as I do, because if it's a thing I'm saying, why would I not be doing it?
True.
And that's what Jesus is saying about the Pharisees. Like, yeah, they say all the right stuff, but talk is cheap. That's good, bro. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. That's a definition for hypocrisy. When you put a burden on somebody else or an expectation on somebody else that you don't do yourself. Like, that's an example of hypocrisy. And that's what they were doing.